Hello, welcome to the audiobook of my Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's fanfic, Crimson Star Priestess. If you are enjoying this series, make sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe to my channel for updates. The link to the fanfic and my Discord server are in the description below. I do not own any Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's characters, I only own my original characters. The bell in Dole Academy rang by 12 p.m., which was the signal for lunch break. The students walked out of their classrooms to get their packed lunchboxes or hurry to the cafeteria to buy their favorite meal. Aki walked calmly out of the classroom with her books, but she walked a bit faster to reach her locker. She soon found it and unlocked it to put away her books, but she didn't grab her packed lunchbox because today was no ordinary day. Aki! The young woman turned around and saw Leo and Luna wave their hands to her in the distance. She smiled and waved in return as she shut the locker. Hurry, Aki! We're going to miss Estelle's exam! Leo called as he bounced up and down on his feet. Leo, we're not late yet, Luna sighed softly. Aki giggled as she joined the twins. That's true, but Estelle did say her exam might start sooner if the exam before hers ends early, so it's best we leave now. What are you talking about? A soft voice spoke up. Aki turned around and came face to face with Sakura's confused and Mei's amused expressions. Oh hi, Sakura, Mei, the psychic duelist greeted them. Where are you three going in a hurry? Sakura wondered. To the turbo course, Leo answered excitedly. Estelle's about to take her exam and become a turbo duelist. Really? Mei said as a small grin grew on her lips. Mind if we tag along and cheer for her? I'm sure she'd appreciate your support, Aki nodded. Oh ho 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 ho! What is it I hear? A familiar voice called out that caused the group to sweat drop. One of you is about to take the exam and become a turbo duelist? Not her again, Sakura mumbled softly. The girls and twins turned around to see Kobayakawa Ran standing in the middle of the hallway, laughing like a spoiled princess. Ran, Aki said hesitantly. It's been a while, Aki, Ran said as soon as she calmed down. Now, what is this you are talking about? Our friend is going to take her turbo exam, Luna replied. Oh, so it's not one of you girls? Ran blinked as she eyed Aki, Sakura and Mei. Obviously not. Mei shook her head as she rested her right hand on her hip. If we were, then we would hurry to the course at this moment. Wait, shouldn't you be busy with your studies, Kobayakawa? Sakura wondered. After all, you are a senior. Yes, that's true, Ran replied. But sometimes you need a break every now and then. Aki looked away to think for a brief moment before turning back to Ran. If you want, Ran, want to come with us and cheer for Estelle? She asked. What? Mei and Leo exclaimed in disbelief as Luna and Sakura gaped in surprise. Ran just blinked in slight surprise at the offer. But Aki, aren't you and Ran rivals? Leo asked confusedly. Yeah, remember how Kobayakawa keeps bothering you every week to duel you, Aki? Mei added. Besides, I'm pretty sure she's not interested in watching one of your friends turbo dueling for the license. Well, since you've made that offer, Ran interrupted as she rubbed her chin while having a pondering expression before shifting into a big, prideful grin. I'll gladly share my support for your friend. With me by your side, she will surely succeed and win the turbo duel. Oh ho ho ho! I don't think that's going to determine whether Estelle will win or lose, Aki mumbled with a sweat drop. The group hurried to the course and walked up to the stands to get a better view. Right now, there was another exam going on and the turbo duel was going in full speed. Aki, Leo and Luna snapped their heads up in surprise when they spotted two familiar figures sitting on the stands. "Goodwin! Trudge!" Luna called. The two men turned their heads at the students as the three signers hurried ahead to greet the adults. "Good afternoon, children," Goodwin greeted as he got up from his seat to bow his head. "What are you two doing here?" Leo asked. "Are you going to watch Estelle's turbo duel too?" Director Goodwin cancelled all his appointments to come and watch his daughter take the exam, Trudge answered as he stood up from his seat, dressed in his sector security officer uniform. "And he asked me to escort him to the riding field, but since I'm also supposed to escort him back to the HQ, I'll have to remain seated here." "Please, I'm sure you volunteered to escort Goodwin so you could watch the turbo duel, Trudge," Crow's voice laughed. The group looked up to see Yusei, Jack and Crow joining them. Crow had a big, mischievous grin on his lips as Trudge's cheeks turned a bit red in frustration. "I did not!" the officer retorted irritably. "Jack Atlas," Ran muttered as she glared at Jack. "Kobayakawa." Jack returned the greeting with a small glare. "Has Estelle's exam begun yet?" Yusei asked as he ignored the quarrel. "Not yet," Goodwin shook his head. "The exam should commence as soon as this turbo duel ends." Everyone flinched when they heard a crash. They turned to the course and saw the first turbo duelist had crashed their duel runner. The proctor, who was riding a sector security duel runner and dressed in an officer uniform, stopped next to the fallen turbo duelist. The officer's face was hidden by the shaded visor, but their body language showed concern for the crashed duelist. The staff hurried to the course to clean up the mess and remove the crashed duel runner, as two people helped the duelist get off the course and check for injuries. Once everything was all green, the proctor drove back to the start line to wait for their next opponent. "I hope that duelist is okay," Sakura commented concernedly. "He was doomed before the turbo duel could finish," Ran commented as the group sat down on the seats. "Speaking of, has anyone ever seen Estelle's duel runner?" Luna asked. "I know I haven't," Aki shook her head. "Me neither. Have you guys?" Leo asked the satellite trio. "No, she's been very quiet about it," Yusei answered. "I tried asking her about the runner, but all she said was it's custom designed." Jack snorted loudly as he crossed his arms. "I'm pretty sure the duel runner is going to look like a dragon due to her obsession for dragon monsters," he commented. "Hey, what makes you say that?" Crow asked as he sat down next to the blonde man. "What if she has a normal and sleek runner that's specifically for girls?" Yusei turned his eyes on the director of sector security. "Do you know Goodwin?" he asked. Goodwin chuckled softly. "Of course I know, but Estelle told me to keep this as a surprise for you," he replied. The bombarding sound of an engine broke the silence as a crimson duel runner drove out from a corner and jumped up in the air. The group looked with surprised eyes at the duel runner and the duelist dressed in a red riding suit. "Told you," Jack commented with an amused smirk. I landed on the course after I had put on a show for my friends to give them a good view of my duel runner, Crimson Starlight. It had the shape of a dragon with its head, wings, and a long tail on the back. The runner was crimson colored while the belly part was orange. The dashboard part looked pretty similar to Aki's do-runner from the anime, just as the two handles to grab onto and steer the runner. My riding suit was a red/crimson one-piece with a jacket that served as a two-layer on top, a bit inspired by Yusei's suit he had in the WRGP in the anime, while I had a skirt wrapped around the hips, a pair of crimson gloves, and dark crimson boots with one pentagram on each. My helmet looked similar to Sector Security's helmet, but it was crimson colored and had one antenna attached on the left headphone part. The visor of the helmet reached almost down to my nose and had a black shade. My spiky wrist sealer was strapped on my left arm with the deck, while my extra deck was in the left pocket of my jacket. I parked next to the proctor, who I could tell by the body structure was a female who had waited patiently for me. "Sorry for the wait," I told her. "That's okay," the proctor replied with a soft chuckle. "Before the turbo duel begins, let me tell you a few details. It's your actions and control of your runner during the turbo duel that will determine whether you'll receive your license or not. Of course, you'll get some bonus points if you win the turbo duel, but it's not important to win." "Really?" I asked as I raised an eyebrow in confusion. I thought the turbo duel exams had already increased the standard for duelists to pass the test due to the upcoming World Racing Grand Prix next year, but I guess that was going to change after the new year. "Yep," the proctor nodded. "Any questions?" "No," I shook my head. "All right then. Fiat spell, speed word 2, set!" The proctor and I pushed the buttons on our runners to activate speed word 2. The virtual card of the field spell appeared on the screen as the display changed for the turbo duel. "Duel mode on." The holographic lamps for the countdown appeared in front of us. The proctor messed with the throttle, causing the engine to purr loudly. It was obvious she wanted to intimidate me, but I didn't let it bother me. "Ready, set, duel." The proctor and I drove straight after the countdown was complete. Both of us accelerated to reach the first curve to determine who would go first. I was taking it slightly slow since I was a bit nervous. The proctor reached the curve before me, so she was going first. I drew the first 5 cards of my deck and got Fire and Escator, Supai, Oracle of the Sun, Archbrave Dragon, and Mirror Force. "I was expecting you to take the first turn, but I guess you're still wet behind your ears." The proctor spoke through the wireless communicator. "I'll go first. I draw and I summon Solar Flare Dragon in attack mode. I place 1 card face down and end my turn." The proctor continued as a face down card appeared briefly in front of her runner before it vanished. "But before your turn, Solar Flare Dragon's effect activates. He inflicts 500 points of damage to you." Solar Flare Dragon turned around to face me while opening his mouth. I could see the flames of an incoming effect attack, so I braced myself. The Pyro Duel Monster fired a fireball that hit the concrete in front of my do-runner. I briefly lost control of my runner, but I quickly collected myself and regained control after messing with the gear selector pedal and steering the do-runner until it was going straight. "This is just the beginning. Make your move, but be careful. I'm not going to go easy on you." I tried to keep the runner straight as I let go of the right handlebar to draw the top card of my deck on the wrist dealer. I draw! The card I had just drawn was Speed Spell Half Seas. It was a card I couldn't use right now, but I had a feeling it was going to be very useful later on if the proctor was using a fire burn deck, which was going to be quite the pain. "Because you have a monster on your side of the field and I don't, I can special summon Oracle of the Sun in defense mode. I started my turn. Next, I summon Supai in attack mode. Now, I tune level 1 Supai with level 5 Oracle of the Sun. When the moon is full in the darkness, the whispering of the devil will be heard. Entice them over to death. Synchro summon. Show yourself. Moondragon Quilla! The Moondragon replaced the 2 monsters and allowed the 4 heads to screech at Solarflare Dragon in an attempt to intimidate it. That's a pretty monster, but I'm afraid there'll be change of plans. I activate my face-down trap, Nightmare Wheel. Oh no, not that one! This continuous trap card allows me to select one monster my opponent controls, and that monster cannot attack or change its battle position as long as the card is active. The monster I choose is Moondragon Quilla. The malicious breaking wheel floated out of the trap card before it emitted a dark aura. Moondragon Quilla got enveloped in the same aura that pulled her to the wheel. She tried fighting against the force, but it was useless. My Synchro Dragon got strapped onto the wheel and couldn't move an inch. I held back a growl as I bit my lower lip. Because of this move, I couldn't attack. I end my turn, I called. I told you I'm not going to make it easy for you just because you're the director's daughter. My turn. Nightmare Wheel's second effect activates during my standby phase. You take 500 points of damage. The monster breaking wheel's eyes glowed for a second before they fired 2 laser beams at me. I steered my runner from left to right to dodge the effect damage, but one laser beam hit me on my side, causing me to flinch slightly. I knew it was just a solid vision, but effects could sometimes feel so realistic. The Proctor was several meters ahead of me, but I was still trying to catch up with her. I summoned the tuner monster Gorilla Kite in attack mode. A tuner monster? You're going to synchro summon? I asked. Why yes, you're not the only synchro duelist here. I tune level 4 Gorilla Kite with level 4 Solarflare Dragon, but when Gorilla leaves the field, he inflicts 500 points of damage to you. Gorilla Kite dropped his spiky bombs before he transformed into 4 tuning rings. My eyes shifted from the synchro summoning to the falling bombs, seeing how the white spikes began blinking in red. I speeded up a bit to somehow dodge the bombs, but they exploded only meters above me. I lowered my head a bit as I drove through the holographic smoke with Moondragon Quilla still trapped onto the Nightmare Wheel. Once I drove through the smoke, I was greeted by a synchro monster I was actually familiar with, Crimson Blader. Say hello to Crimson Blader and say goodbye to Moondragon Quilla. Crimson Blader, attack with Red Burner! Crimson Blader grunted before he flew towards Moondragon Quilla while raising both swords, ready to slash the Moondragon into pieces. Moondragon Quilla's effect, I quickly called. When she's targeted for an attack, I gain life points equal to half the attacking monster's attack points. My synchro monster began glowing in a gentle blue aura as it was transferred to the incoming synchro warrior. The aura absorbed some of his energy that was transferred to me, causing my body to glow in blue as my life points increased. Alright, but Moondragon Quilla is still destroyed by Crimson Blader. Crimson Blader slashed the Synchro Dragon into pieces, which in turn hit me like a shower. The impact was a bit shaky, but because the damage wasn't so big, I didn't lose control of my runner. Because Crimson Blader destroyed your monster by battle and sent it to the graveyard, you can't normal or special summon level 5 or higher monsters during your next turn. Okay, I responded. You'll end your turn? Yes, I end my turn. I nodded as I reached for my deck. "I draw!" I yelled as I drew my next card. I held back a growl of frustration when I saw the card I had just drawn was my second Oracle of the Sun. I could have special summoned him if it weren't for Crimson Blader's effect. I place one card face down and end my turn. I called as I set Mirror Force.
Not even a monster? Oh well, we'll see what you can do to defend yourself. My turn! I remove Solar Flare Dragon from play in my graveyard to special summon Inferno in attack mode.
I raised an eyebrow in confusion. Why did the Proctor special summon this monster? Unless...
Because I special summoned a monster, I can still normal summon. I release Inferno to tribute summon the Gemini monster, King Pyron. I'm taking precaution because of your face down, so only Crimson Blader will attack you directly. Go, Red Burner!
Crimson Blader turned around and flew towards me while raising both swords in the air. I grinned to myself as I watched the Crimson Warrior approach me with a dangerous gleam in his eyes. I activate my trap, Mirror Force! I called as I pushed one of the buttons above the graveyard slot on the runner, activating said card. Crimson Blader swung his sword, but instead of hitting me, the swords collided with a transparent mirror in front of me. The force from the swords bounced on the surface of Mirror Force and turned back on the Synchro Monster. Crimson Blader grunted in pain before he shattered into pieces. Every attack position monster of yours are destroyed due to Mirror Force, but King Pyron survives because he's in defense mode, I explained.
Clever. I knew you had something going on, so I didn't want to put King Pyron in danger. However, I've got something else for you. I play Speed Spell Speed Storm. When my speed counters are at 3 or more, I can inflict 1000 points of damage.
The speed spell card appeared on the field before it unleashed a tornado of wind at me. I lowered my head as I fought against the force of the tornado, while trying to keep my duo runner as steady as possible.
That's all I have for now. I end my turn.
The Proctor was much stronger than I at first anticipated. For a moment, I was wondering what her ground deck looked like. I draw, I called. I held back another groan as I saw I had drawn Divine Dragon Lord Fairground. Now I had two powerful monsters in my hand that I couldn't summon to the field, so it was a good thing I had a backup plan. Because you have a monster on your field and I don't, I can special summon my second Oracle of the Sun in defense mode. Next, I summon Fire Ant Escator in attack mode. Now I tune level 3 Fire Ant Escator with the level 5 Oracle of the Sun to synchro summon the King of the Sky, Moondragon Quilla's twin. When the sun arises, all darkness is dispelled. Light, shine brightly, synchro summon, show yourself, Sun Dragon Inti! The orange light died down to reveal the red Sun Dragon with 4 hungry heads, eager to eat something filling. The Proctor and I jumped down from a ramp and landed on the course before carrying on. We drove past the stands where my friends sat and watched. Leo and Luna waved their hands to me with big smiles. I smiled back and gave them a soft wave before turning my attention back to the Turbo Tool. Sun Dragon Inti, destroy King Pyron! I called. Sun Dragon Inti's 4 heads growled before 2 of them lashed themselves onto the Gemini monster. King Pyron roared in pain as the 2 heads ripped his arms off before he shattered into pieces. I end my turn, I said.
Lucky for you that you destroyed King Pyron. If he had remained on my field until my next turn, I would have normal summoned him and inflict 1000 points of damage with his effect. I draw. During my standby phase, I remove 3 speed counters to add my speed spell, Speed Storm, from the graveyard to my hand.
The Proctor's Door Runner slowed down a lot, so I finally caught up to her and even drove past her with Sun Dragon Inti.
I summon Flame Spirit Ignis in attack mode. I place 1 card face down and play Speed Spell, Speed Storm once again.
A face down card appeared on my opponent's field as the speed spell activated. I braced myself and felt the wind blow around me while my runner wobbled a little, but I had control over it.
I end my turn. Try and attack if you want. The turbo door could end on my next turn if you don't do something.
My brain was starting to get a bit overloaded by the turbo tool and the effects of solid vision, but I refused to give up now. I was going to duel to the end. My turn, I called as I drew a card.
I activate the continuous trap, Gravity Bind. Level 4 or higher monsters cannot attack as long as this card is on the field.
I growled softly at that before I checked the card in my hand. It was Curry Bandit. Finally something good. First things first, I played the speed spell Half Seas, I called. When my speed counters are at 3 or more, I can choose 1 monster on the field and half its attack points and gain said attack points as life points. The monster I choose is my own Sun Dragon Inti. It was a risky move, but because of Gravity Bind, he couldn't attack nor be attacked by the Proctor's monsters if they were level 4 or higher. Sun Dragon Inti was enveloped in a pretty green aura that caused his attack points to get halved. The green aura was then transferred to me, restoring my life points a lot. I summon Curry Bandit in attack mode. Curry Bandit's effect activates during my end phase. I tribute him to excavate the top 5 cards of my deck, and then I get to choose 1 speed spell or trap card among them and add it to my hand while the rest goes to the graveyard. Curry Bandit transformed into a yellow light that vanished into tiny particles. I was about to draw the top 5 cards of my deck when I noticed I was reaching a sharp curve. I grabbed both handles and lead my runner harshly to the right to get through the curve. I could hear the metal yawing against the concrete, but I managed to drive through it without crashing. Once I steadied my runner, I checked the top 5 cards of my deck. They were Doom Accelerator, Speed Spell Sonic Buster, Impenetrable Attack, Golem Dragon, and the Blazing Mars. A strategy was already forming in my head as I saw 2 cards that could work in a later phase. I add Speed Spell Sonic Buster to my hand, and with that I end my turn. I called as I added said card to my hand while I discarded the rest of the cards to the graveyard.
Okay then, I draw. During my standby phase, I remove 3 speed counters to add Speed Spell, Speed Storm from the graveyard to my hand.
I saw in the tiny screen on the monitor how the Proctor was now far behind me as her duo runner slowed down due to the loss of speed counters. She really liked that speed spell card, but she couldn't activate it this turn.
I summon my second Gorilla Kite in attack mode.
For a second, I thought the Proctor was going to synchro summon again, but even if she did, that synchro monster wouldn't be able to attack me due to Gravity Bind.
And I end my turn with that.
I shrugged as I reached for my deck. My turn! I called as I drew Shining Angel. I summon Shining Angel in attack mode, and I end my turn.
My turn. I play the speed spell Speed Storm. Get ready for another 1000 points of damage.
I braced myself as the speed spell's effect hit me for the 3rd time of this turbo duel. The wind blew around me like crazy, and it sounded like a hurricane inside my helmet.
I place one card face down and end my turn.
I draw, I called as I drew the top card of my deck. This time I got Speed Spell Angel Baton, finally something good. I play the Speed Spell Angel Baton. When I have 2 or more speed counters, I can draw 2 cards from my deck, but I must discard 1 card from my hand to the graveyard. I drew the next 2 cards and they were Breakthrough Skill and Apocalypse. I added them to my hand and picked up the card of Divine Dragon Lord Fairground to send it to the graveyard. I continue my turn by summoning Apocalypse in attack mode. Now I remove from play 1 Oracle of the Sun, Supai and Fire Ant Escator in my graveyard to special summon 1 particular monster that's in my graveyard. I called as the 4 cards were shoved out of the graveyard. I grabbed the cards quickly before they could fly away and put the banished cards in the right pocket of my jacket. The transparent figures of the 2 tuner monsters and the Incan spellcaster appeared in front of me before they shot up to the sky. They fused into 1 bright red light that shone stronger than the sun, and fire enveloped me and my dual runner. I call forth the great planet of war of our solar system. Join us, the blazing Mars! The flames that engulfed my runner blew to the sky and shape-shifted into the chosen door monster who emitted a warm aura and shone like the sun.
What kind of monstrosity is that? But you can't attack with Blazing Mars due to gravity bind, so it was a bit of a waste to summon it now.
That's where you're wrong, I replied. I activated the Blazing Mars effect by sending my other monsters, Shining Angel, Sun Dragon Inti, and Apocalypse to the graveyard. I can inflict 500 points of damage for each monster. That's 1500 damage in total. Go Blazing Mars! Use Valor Spear! Blazing Mars turned around to face the Proctor as the other 3 monsters transformed into light and shot themselves into the spear in their mouth of the skull. I watched on the monitor how the fire spear used part of its energy to create a spear of fire. Blazing Mars raised his arm and aimed it at the Proctor. At that command, the giant skull shot the flame spear and hit the Proctor straight on the chest. The Proctor grunted by the solid vision effect as she struggled a bit to regain control of her wobbly runner. Finally, I was able to do some damage, but everything could change in the next turn. I place 1 card face down and end my turn. I called as I set Breakthrough Skill.
Now I understand why you brought out that monster.
The Proctor called after she regained control of her runner.
Very clever. I draw. It's over. I activate Speed Word 2. I remove 4 speed counters to inflict 800 points of damage to you for every speed spell in my hand. I've got 2 speed spells, so that's 1600 damage.
I glanced over my shoulder and watched as the front light of the Proctor's door runner shone so brightly it reached me, despite we were so far away from each other. I turned around and tried to block the light, but it still made it to me as I got blinded for a second. Oh no! I was below 1000 life points. I quickly checked the Proctor's field. Flame Spirit Ignis' effect could actually end me now, but I had a backup plan. I activate my trap Breakthrough Skill. I called as set trap card flipped up. I can target 1 monster you control, and that monster can't activate its effect for the rest of this turn. The one I target is your Flame Spirit Ignis. The dragon paw from the trap card flew out and reached all the way to Flame Spirit Ignis. The paw slapped the pyro monster on the cheek before it retracted to the card. Flame Spirit Ignis looked very confused for a moment before it lowered its head.
You got lucky there. I was about to finish you with Ignis, but here's something else to put pressure on you. I activate my continuous trap, backfire. Now, whenever a fire monster I control is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, this trap will inflict 500 points of damage to you. That's if you can get through gravity bind somehow. Your next move will be your final one. When it's my turn, my monsters will burn you and your blazing Mars into ashes. Your move.
The proctor was right. I had to be very smart now and get an inch of luck. I only had the monster card of Archbrave Dragon in my hand that I couldn't summon and use it as fuel for the Blazing Mars's effect. This was definitely going to be my last turn of the Turbo Duel. I draw! I called as I drew the top card of my deck. I got Speed Spell Star Force. It wasn't very useful, so I put it on my wrist dealer before I started thinking. I could use Speed Word 2's effect to inflict 1600 damage twice in a row and end the Turbo Duel, but I wanted to use my monsters to win and not by the field spell. Was that a naive thought of me? Maybe, but I wanted to win like a true Turbo Duelist. I begin my turn by playing Speed Spell Sonic Buster, I called. While I have 4 or more speed counters, I can select one monster I control and inflict damage to you equal to half its attack points. I choose the Blazing Mars. The speed spell appeared on the field before it shot a beam at the Blazing Mars. My monster growled as it transferred a bit of its power to the speed spell card. The card then fired a wave of flames to the proctor far behind me. I could hear how the proctor grunted by the impact of the fire wave, but she recovered fast and tried to speed up.
That wasn't enough to push me down to below 1000 life points,
she taunted. True, I nodded. Now I activate Speed Word 2. I remove 7 speed counters to draw 1 card from my deck. I reached for my deck as my Duel Runner slowed down and the proctor was catching up. This next draw was going to determine everything. I took a deep breath and drew the card. I slowly turned it around to see it was Azkator Dawnwalker. I discard 1 card from my hand to the graveyard to special summon Azkator Dawnwalker in defense mode. I called as I sent Archbrave Dragon to the graveyard before placing my other card on the duel disc. Azkator Dawnwalker's effect continues. When he is special summoned by his own effect, I can special summon 1 Fire Ant Azkator from my deck. My second Fire Ant Azkator crawled out to the field after I grabbed the card from my deck and placed it on the duel disc.
So you're going to use the Blazing Mars's effect to inflict damage to me? Even if you do that, it's not going to be enough to finish me.
Not if I activate Speed Word 2 again, I retorted as I held up Speed Spell Star Force. I remove 4 speed counters to inflict 800 points of damage due to the 1 speed spell I have in my hand. As my Duel Runner slowed down, the proctor drove past me, but not without taking damage. The dragon head on the front of my runner began groaning as the mechanisms were moving inside the frame. Next thing I knew, the nostrils of the dragon head breathed fire at the proctor and her Duel Runner. My heart began pounding hard in my chest as I slowly came to a realization that I was actually going to win this Turbo Duel. Blazing Mars's effect. I sent Azkator Dawnwalker and Fire Ant Azkator to the graveyard to inflict 1000 points of damage.
What? But that means...
This Turbo Duel is over. Blazing Mars, use Valor Spear. The Azkator duo transformed into light and got sucked into the fire spear of the Blazing Mars's mouth. The humanoid monster pointed at the proctor in front of me before he fired a new fire spear. The proctor screamed as the spear hit her back, dealing the last damage of the Turbo Duel. The proctor's Duel Runner slowly came to a halt as it released a cloud of steam. I drove past the sector security runner and parked a couple of meters away from my opponent, as the blazing Mars vanished since the turbo duel was over. Now it was time for the final verdict. The proctor and I drove back to the start line where an examiner had watched the whole turbo duel and scored my actions. I waited quietly on the door runner with my helmet on my lap, but I was getting nervous for each second that passed by. My friends in the stands were silent too as they waited for the verdict. The proctor was still wearing her helmet, so her face wasn't revealed yet. Estelle Malmström Goodwin, the male examiner spoke up, which made me grow stiff. A bit hesitant at the beginning, but has good control of the door runner. However, they can be a bit distracted when they get way into the turbo duel, but they recover fast and can regain control after the door runner starts to lose balance. Bonus points for winning the turbo duel, and otherwise, no other pointers. The man looked up from the clipboard with a big smile. Congratulations, you've passed the exam. From now on, you're an official turbo duelist. My stiff shoulders relaxed when I heard the final words. I actually managed to become a turbo duelist. I let out a deep sigh in relief before I leaned against the dashboard of my runner. I now began feeling the aftermath of the duel. All the energy and attention on the turbo duel had drained me so much I felt like I was going to collapse. Estelle, the twins called. I glanced up from my arms where I had rested my head and watched my friends walk up to me. Leo and Luna were energetic and rushed to me with big smiles on their faces. You did it! You're an actual turbo duelist now, like you say, Jack and Crow! Leo exclaimed in joy. Yes, I nodded softly as I straightened up. Are you okay? Luna asked, noticing my tired expression. I'm just a bit tired, I confessed. This took lots of energy from me. You better get used to it, the proctor commented as she removed her helmet. Now that you're a turbo duelist, you're going to be challenged multiple times a day. I blinked my eyes as I took in the proctor's appearance. She looked like a copy of May, Aki's friend, but she had long black hair and brown eyes. Her skin had the same tanned tone as May's. I knew it was you, Haruka, May called out. Haruka grinned at her lookalike. Glad to see you, cousin, she greeted. Cousin? Crow exclaimed in disbelief. Wait, are you two relatives? May turned to the group and smiled. Yep, this is Nakamura Haruka, my older cousin. She works for Sector Security. Pleasure to meet you all, Haruka nodded before she turned her eyes on Aki. I've heard a lot about you from May. Thank you for being friends with her, Isayoi. Oh, I should be the one thanking May for being my friend, Aki replied modestly. Jack stepped forward to me with an amused smirk. Your blazing Mars was quite a surprise. I'd love to be your next opponent if you're up for it, he said. Hey, I wanted to challenge Estelle next, Jack, Crow intervened irritably. Too bad, I asked her first, Jack replied calmly. The rest of us sweat dropped at the duo that began bickering about who was going to turbo duel me next time. I turned my eyes to Yusei, who walked up to me. I got off my runner and put away my helmet before giving him a small smile. What did you think about the turbo duel? I asked softly. Yusei looked over my shoulder as his eyes were focused on my duel runner, probably gathering his thoughts. You looked a bit unbalanced a couple of times, but that could be because you're still not used to driving a duel runner. Otherwise, you did well. He held out his right hand. I'd like to have a turbo duel with you and give you other pointers to improve your skills. I nodded before I shook his hand. I'd love that. Thank you, Yusei, I smiled. I felt like now that I was a turbo duelist, another door had opened in my life. The world around me has expanded, and I was welcoming the great unknown.